Hello guys, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing great. It's a nice lovely day in the cold winter. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. And please push that notification bell so that you can get notified each time I post a new video. And then also please push that thumbs up button so that you can give a like to my video. Massively helps. And then without further ado, let's get right into it. I want to talk about the London clubs today. I want to talk about Chelsea and Arsenal. I'm not going to talk about Tottenham, but I want to talk about Chelsea and Arsenal. Now, if we start with Arsenal, Arsenal obviously is a great club, great history, great heritage, and it's a club that's known for like winning trophies under the Arsene Wenger era. They won lots of FA Cups, a couple of Premier Leagues. They've always had great players like Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira, who these guys? I think Dennis Bergkamp. So they've always had great players. But now obviously they've been on a decline slightly. But now they're coming back right again. Like Mikel Arteta has his team, even though they kind of flopped towards the end of last season and they kind of bottled it. They should have made top four, but they didn't. So I want to talk about this season and their expectations for the new season. I think this season, Mikel Arteta is under big pressure. He has got to make the Champions League this year, either by winning the Europa League, because if you win the Europa League, you get a ticket to the UEFA Champions League, no matter where you finish on the league table. So they have to at least be in the top 5 Premier League teams, so top 5, and then win the Europa League, or they have to finish top 4 and make a deep run in that Europa League campaign. I think Mikel Arteta has to do that. If he doesn't, it's a failure, and there should be massive considerations with regards to him being sacked, because he spent quite a bit of money in these past 2 seasons. I think he's the highest spending manager in Europe. If we check here, I'll check here. There's a website here called transfermarket.co.za. I'll check here with regards to the amount of money Mikel Arteta has spent these past 2 seasons. So this season so far, he's brought in Gabriel Jesus from City, Alexander Zinchenko, Fabio Vieira from Porto, Matt Turner, who's a goalkeeper from the States, and then Marquinhos and Austin Trusty, and that he's not really important, to be honest. Let's not talk about him. You think he comes from the Championship. But the key players here that have been bought for significant amounts of money, it's Gabriel Jesus, Alexander Zinchenko, Fabio Vieira, and Matt Turner and Marquinhos. So in total, this guy has spent on these players 132 million euros. Now, I'm not sure how much that is in pounds. You can check for yourself. But he spent a total of 132 million euros. And then last season, he spent, I think, also in excess of 100 million euros. Last season, okay, let's just refresh this year. Come on, man. Yeah, last season, he bought Ben White, Martin Odegaard, Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, and Lokonga, and Nuno Tavares. Yeah, so those are the players he bought last year. And then he spent 167.4 million euros. So 167.4 million euros. That's big cash. Hey, that's a lot of money. So in the past 2 seasons, he's basically spent around 290 something million euros, close to 300 million euros in 2 seasons. Now that's a lot of money. So surely there's gotta, like, obviously at first, like, he was rebuilding Arsenal, because Arsenal were like really on a bad patch and was getting rid of the dead wood, because there were lots of players at the club who, like Aubameyang, Ozil, side note, by the way, there's something called an umlaut. This is German, so I've been learning some German. So, you know, the reason why I say Ozil, it's not Ozil. The reason why, like, Mesut Ozil is not Mesut Ozil, because if you look at his surname, it's O with the double dot at the top, and then it's Zo. That double dot is called an umlaut in German, and like it gives it like it's pronounced When O has that double dot, it's pronounced so it's Özil, not Ozil. Just a side note there, if you're interested. That's why Mesut Ozil is called Özil, not Ozil. Like some people call him Ozil, but that's wrong. It's Özil because he's German, or his surname is German because he's got Turkish descent, I think. It's Özil. But anyways, we're not doing that. We're not teaching German here. I was just saying it. But basically, he was getting rid of the dead wood like Özil, Aubameyang, Kolasinac. Like Arsenal went a crazy patch whereby they were signing players really that are not good enough. And obviously Ozil played very well for Arsenal for a number of years, and Aubameyang played for a number of years for Arsenal very well. But I don't know what happened with regards to these guys because they got a big contract and they stopped performing. So like Aubameyang got a contract of £350,000 a week, and after he got that contract, he stopped performing. Like literally, he was a shell of himself. I don't know whether it's the money or whatever. I don't know. Because like I think it was like around 100 and something £1,000 at first, but then because he was the club captain, because he was playing very well, they gave him a new contract, bumper pay rise, £350,000 a week, and then the guy just disappears. And then obviously Arteta didn't like him because he kept being late for training. He wasn't a good example to the young lads at Arsenal, so he got rid of him. So he's gotten rid of the deadwood. He has his players now. I mean, if you spend 290 something million euros, you have your own players now. So I think there's big pressure on Mikel Arteta to start delivering now. He has to at least either make top four or win the Europa League. Because even if Arsenal finish 6th or 7th, if they win the Europa League, that's a very successful season. Because one, you've won a trophy, and you can get a bit of bragging rights against your arch rivals Tottenham because they haven't won a trophy since 2008. Not that I'm having a dig at Tottenham, but I'm just saying it. I know there's like quite a fiery thingy. What's the word? A fiery rivalry between Arsenal and Tottenham. But anyways, like if you if they win the Europa League, they would have won a trophy, and they're gonna be in the Champions League. That's big because you get Champions League revenue and you get revenue from winning a trophy in the Europa League. So I think that would be a massively successful season for Arsenal if they were to win that trophy. And it would allow their players to get used to the winning mentality that you need to be an elite club and an elite football. You can't teach winning mentality. You can only live through it. Like in order to get a winning mentality, you have to experience it. It's like driving. You can teach someone driving as much as you want. The only way you're going to know how to drive is to drive a vehicle, or like riding a bicycle. The only way you can teach someone how to ride a bicycle is that person getting into the bicycle and riding the damn bicycle. So you can't teach winning mentality. So if they win a trophy, it's kind of like you are teaching the young players that they have winning mentality, and you're going to get Champions League football. By getting Champions League football, as I've already said, your revenue goes up and you start to attract top players. So now you can talk about starting to challenge for the league title, because now you have the pool to attract top players, and you also have the money to buy top players. So I think it would be a massively successful season for Arsenal if they were to win the Europa League. If they don't, then they have to win, they have to make top four. Like you can't spend 290 million euros over 2 seasons and still don't get top four. That's a failure. And I think serious questions would need to be asked of Mikel Arteta if he would if Arsenal were not to make the top four and not win the Europa League. Because I think even if they don't make top four, as long as they win the Europa League, they're in the Champions League and they've won a trophy. So I think that's a successful season. So I think I like Mikel Arteta. This is not like, I'm not going on some agenda here to try and kind of like ridicule him and kind of push for him to be sacked or whatever. I've got no dog in the fight. I'm not an Arsenal supporter. I'm just making an observation with regards to the amount of money that Arsenal have spent these past 2 seasons under Mikel Arteta and the time that he's already had at the club to lay out his foundation and lay out his tactics to the players. He has a core group of players that he's had now for at least 2 seasons, like Saka, Smith Rowe, Gabriel Martinelli, and he's getting Jesus, who has a winning mentality because he's won 4 Premier League titles with Manchester City. He's getting Zinchenko, who also has a winning mentality. So he's getting good players, and then he already has a good squad because he's got players like Saka and Smith Rowe and Martinelli and Odegaard. So he already has good players, and he's adding to that. So I think he really needs to push on this upcoming season, so that, like, in order for the season to be regarded as a success. Because if it doesn't win that Europa League and he doesn't make top four, I think, in my opinion, that's a failure. Arsenal fans, you can have your say. I think you'll agree with me. I mean, you like, if you don't, obviously it's fine. You can kind of like provide your opinion on the comment section below. But I think Arsenal really have to push on this season. Like, I'm not saying they have to challenge Manchester City or Liverpool for the title. They are still quite far from that. But they have to be at least number 4 on the league table by season end, or they have to at least win that Europa League, so that they can be in the Champions League next season and so that they can win a trophy. To win the Europa League and make top 4, I think maybe might be a little bit difficult, but they have the squad now and they spent the money, so I think it's time to back it up now. It's time for Arteta to start delivering, because you can't, like, Arsenal is a big football club. You can't, like, keep saying, oh, we're building and all of that stuff. You have to crack on now. Like, you have to start you have to start challenging, at least for the top 4 and or win that Europa League title. So that's my view on Arsenal for the upcoming season. And then I also said I want to talk about Chelsea. Now, Chelsea are going, like, obviously Abramovich left the club because it was sanctioned by the UK government as a result of what's happening in Ukraine. Obviously, a massive shout out to the people in Ukraine for the courage that they're showing during these difficult times. So I think, obviously, the reason why Abramovich was sanctioned was because he has ties to Putin, who is obviously the leader of Russia. So obviously we're not talking politics here, but I was just saying it. And shout out to the people in Ukraine again. Big up, really. I'm really like inspired by the Ukrainian people, because it's a small nation and they don't have a lot, but they've got a fighting spirit and they've got a fighting mentality, and they're not just going to give up, because it's very, like, it's not easy to compete against a country like Russia, who has like who invest a lot of money in military, and obviously they have a much stronger military than the Ukrainians. But obviously the Ukrainians are they have that fighting spirit. So go on, Ukraine. Anyways, so obviously Abramovich left Chelsea, and Todd Boehly and the other new owners, because Todd Boehly is part of the consortium that took over Chelsea. So obviously they've come on, they've come into the club. They bought Sterling and they bought Koulibaly, which is great business, to be honest, because Sterling is better than all their wingers like Ziyech and Pulisic, and all those guys have been flops. Really, they've been shocking. Like, they can't put on a consistent run of games whereby they are performing at a very high level, and they're always getting injured and all of that stuff. So really, they've been shocking. I think Sterling is a great signing for them, and I think Koulibaly is a great signing for them, because Koulibaly, not 3 seasons ago, was regarded as one of the best defenders in the world. So I think Koulibaly is a great signing, centre back with experience and all of that stuff. But obviously, Chelsea have lost Rudiger. They have lost Christensen, who I don't really rate, to be honest. I think Christensen is a poor defender. I don't think it's good enough, to be honest. So I don't think it's a massive loss, but obviously it's a body that they've lost, so they need to replace that body. And obviously Barcelona have kind of been a pain in the ass for Chelsea, because Chelsea tried to sign Rafinha, and they gave Leeds a bid of £60 million to sign Rafinha. Leeds accepted the bid, but Rafinha wanted to go to Barcelona, so then they couldn't sign Rafinha. And then they bid £55 million for Jules Koundé, who plays for Sevilla. And then Sevilla accepted the £55 million bid, but then Barcelona came in And then they were interested in Jules Koundé, and Koundé wanted to go to Barcelona. And now it's already been agreed that like personal terms have already been agreed between Jules Koundé and and Barcelona. And Jules Koundé is going to join Barcelona. I don't know if Chelsea fans, if you knew, and every football fan, if you knew about these news with regards to Jules Koundé, but where I get transfer news is from a guy called Fabrizio Romano. There's a guy called Fabrizio Romano. He's got a YouTube channel. He's on Twitter. He's on Instagram. That guy is the most reliable guy you will find with regards to transfer news. He doesn't give out fake news. So everything he says is going to happen. When he says this guy is going to leave his club or whatever, is going to go somewhere, that's going to happen. So, and there's also another guy from The Athletic. There's a kind of a media thing from the UK called The Athletic. There's a guy there called David Ornstein. David Ornstein is also another reliable guy who's very well connected with regards to transfer news. So you can check those guys out. I don't think David Ornstein has a YouTube channel, but he's on Twitter, he's on Instagram. So they provide news each and every time big transfers are going to happen. Like, I first found out that Haaland was going to come to Manchester City from Fabrizio Romano, because Fabrizio Romano provided the news before the clubs actually said something about it. So if you want transfer news quick, then subscribe to the channel of Fabrizio Romano, and then check out David Ornstein on Instagram or Twitter. Anyways, so Chelsea have brought in Sterling and Koulibaly, two great signings, but they still need like maybe two other defenders, because at the moment they have Thiago Silva, Koulibaly, and Trevor Chalobah. Now, Trevor Chalobah is a young player, performed well for Chelsea, but he looks shaky at times. So I think they need one or two other centre backs, just to make sure that they have enough cover of their backline, so that like for the new season. And then obviously Lukaku, the massive failure, has left Chelsea. And he's joined Inter Milan. I think Lukaku's a bit of a crybaby, to be honest. He can't moans about. I've already said this in my previous video. I forgot which one it was. Basically, I think it's a like I don't think, obviously Lukaku didn't offer much for Chelsea, so I don't think it's a big thing that he's left. But obviously Chelsea don't have a centre forward, and I think, in my opinion, they need goals to start competing against Liverpool and Manchester City, because their midfielders don't score enough goals. Unless Tuchel, in my opinion, can change to a 4-3-3 system and then play N'Golo Kante as the holding midfielder and play Mason Mount and Conor Gallagher as the two number 8s. Because Conor Gallagher and Mason Mount, those two guys, have got an eye for a goal. They will score at least 10 goals a season because they're good enough to do so. So I think, unless Chelsea start playing a back four with those guys as their number 8s, and then you're going to get some goals from Kai Havertz, and Sterling is going to score goals as well. So then you can have enough goals to start challenging. I think they have to get a centre forward, because, and I also think playing Kai Havertz as the false 9 is kind of limiting his potential, because Kai Havertz, the reason why Chelsea bought Kai Havertz was because he was good in Germany and he played for Bayer Leverkusen, and he played as the number 10. And he had double figures for both goals and assists when he was playing for Bayer Leverkusen. He was a creative player. So now Tuchel is asking him to play as the false 9. So I think that's limiting his potential a little bit, because he's the number 10. And if you can play him as the number 10, I think he can perform at a higher clip than the clip that he's performing at right now. But obviously, if they don't get a striker, he is their best option to play as the false 9. So I think... I think Conor Gallagher has to start for Chelsea, and Mason Mount has to start, because they need goals from the midfield. Their midfielders like Kovacic, Jorginho, they don't score enough goals. This is not a dig at these guys or whatever. I think they're good enough footballers to play in the Premier League, but they don't score enough goals. You need to have goals from the midfield if you don't have a striker. If you don't have a 20 goal a season striker, 20 plus goal a season striker, you need to have midfielders that score goals. That's why Manchester City was able to win the Premier League 2 seasons in a row without necessarily having a striker, because De Bruyne scored goals, Mahrez scored goals, Sterling scored goals, Jesus scored goals, Bernardo Silva scored goals, Phil Foden scored goals, whereby For Chelsea, it's only Mason Mount from the midfield that scores goals at a reliable rate. So I think Conor Gallagher has to start for Chelsea because he's going to offer them something different from the midfield and he's going to score goals from the midfield. And then obviously Sterling, I expect Sterling to continue to perform at Chelsea. It was very good for Manchester City as well for like 7 years because he came there in 2015. So I think he's getting into his prime as well because he's still 27 years of age. So I think Sterling has been a great signing for Chelsea. He's going to score goals, but they also need some signings. And the reason why I said in my Premier League predictions, I said they're not going to make top four, is because obviously they don't have a strike. They don't have a striker, and Hakim Ziyech, Pulisic, and who else? Timo Werner. They've obviously not been good enough since they've been signed by Chelsea. They don't score enough goals. I don't actually recall them even getting to 10 goals in all competitions a season since they've signed for Chelsea. I'm not sure if I'm right with regards to this, but they've obviously not been good enough. So I think even if Chelsea play a 4-3-3 system and they play obviously Edward Mendy in goal, Reece James right back, left back Chilwell, Kalidou Koulibaly as part of the two midfielders, and maybe Thiago Silva. And then even though Thiago Silva is not going to be able to play every game because he's 38 now, so maybe like it's gonna be him for like maybe 2-3 games in a row, and then another guy's gonna come in, and then play N'Golo Kante as the holding midfielder, play Mason Mount and Conor Gallagher as the two number 8, play Sterling on the left wing and play Havertz on the right wing. There's still no one for that right wing spot who's reliable enough and whom Chelsea can count on, because the players that you have, it's Werner, Pulisic, and Ziyech, and all those guys have simply not delivered for Chelsea since they've been signed by Chelsea. So I think Chelsea, it's a unless obviously they make signings to improve their squad. I think they've got good players on their team like Kante, like Koulibaly, like Sterling, like Havertz, like Mason Mount, like Conor Gallagher, like Reece James. I really rate Reece James, to be honest. I think he's one of the best right backs in the world. I think, in my opinion, I would put him number 1 in the Premier League. Some people put Trent number 1, but the reason why I like Reece James number 1 is because Reece James is a reliable defender, but he's also very good going forward. Whereas Trent is very good going forward, but he's not a reliable defender. Trent is better than Reece James going forward, but he's not like way better than him. So it's not like a massive discrepancy. So I would rather have Reece James because he does offer me attacking outlet, but he also offers me defensive outlet. He offers me reliable enough performances as a defender against fast-paced wingers. So I think I rate Reece James. So I think unless Chelsea sign another winger, maybe, or an attacker, like maybe 2 attacking players, a striker and a winger, so that you can release Havertz and you can play him as part of the midfield. But even if for me they don't sign a centre forward, they need to at least sign a right winger who is going to complement that front three. Otherwise, I just don't see them challenging either for the title or making top 4, because their team is not settled at the minute. Like Arsenal is more settled than Chelsea at the minute. Like, I know who Arsenal's starting 11 is going to be for the new season. With Chelsea, I don't know. Obviously, the window only closes in September the 1st, so there's still plenty of time for Chelsea to improve as a team. But at the moment, I don't see them being good enough to make that top 4. Because let's not forget that Arsenal finished, I think, 2 points off Chelsea last season, or 3 points off them. So I think Arsenal have improved by getting Gabriel Jesus and Alexander Zinchenko in particular into their team. And in Gabriel Jesus, they have someone who, maybe not a world-class striker, but he's reliable enough as a striker to score 10 plus goals a season. I think I back him to score even 15 plus goals a season if he plays all the games, which he's going to do at Arsenal. So I think Arsenal is more settled. I think Spurs, Tottenham, are more settled, and Spurs have world class players in Harry Kane and Son. And if you've got world class attacking players, you can do great stuff. So I think unless Chelsea massively improve with regards to making signings into like bringing signings into their club, I don't see them making top four, to be honest. I don't think Tuchel is going to be under pressure because you can only work with what you have, and the players that he has, while he has good players in other positions, there are other positions whereby really the players that he has have not been reliable for him. So I think yeah, so that's the video. To be honest, like I don't think there's anything more that I can add to that. I think Arteta, as I've already said, is under big pressure, and I think Chelsea are like they. It would be, as it stands with their squad, it would be a massive success if they were to make top four, in my opinion, because I don't think their squad at the moment is that great, and it's that much better than Arsenal or Tottenham's squad. So I think yeah. So obviously, if you like the video, please push that thumbs up button, and please subscribe to my channel. It really massively it really massively helps if you give me support, and please push that notification bell so that you can get notified each time I post a new video. And yeah, that is my video about the London clubs, Arsenal and Chelsea. Yeah, ciao.